Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the workshop of the Board of County Commissioners. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first up we have a discussion with Justin McGuire, our Fairgrounds manager, to discuss fees. After some information that we asked for. So go ahead, Justin.
Yep, will do. All right, so after we were talked a little bit a couple weeks ago, I went back and kind of talked to some of the other fairgrounds around to kind of get their idea on some of the things that they do, in particular with their conservation, and then maybe because we were kind of talking about supplementing or how they do with their wages. So if you want to go to my other comparison there, which is
Like the
I
last
sent you another one.
It's the Excel spreadsheet.
Yes, the Excel one. Yes, got it. All right. So this kind of give you a little bit of an idea and just some kind of some information. I didn't do McGee on this just because they're in New Mexico, so they don't really have conservation trust funds like we do. But I went and kind of looked at some of the other counties here in Colorado. This kind of gives you an idea what they're bringing in for their revenues compared to their expenses compared to us. A lot of these are budget numbers off their 2025 budget, so they're not exacts. But it does give you a general idea and then kind of an idea of what their wages are out of those expenses that they have to expend. So when you look at us compared to most of the other counties, we're actually doing pretty good comparatively. Now I understand that, you know, we still got to look at what we can do and what we can't do compared to what they do. But if you look at the CTF usage, which is kind of what we were wanting to know, the way we do it, Mesa County basically has the same model as us for their conservation trust monies, which is 75% coming out of the one salary, 100 out of their others. If you look at La Plata County, they actually allocated all theirs for capital outlay at this moment in time, and that's because they're doing some of their new projects to their new buildings that they're doing over there, or their remodels to their buildings, I guess, through their master plan. The other one that is doing some capital outlay is Moffett County, which is doing, and this number, I wasn't able to actually talk to somebody, so this is basically what their published budget said. Their published budget was showing that they were doing a 50-50, or almost a 50-50 split between their labor and capital outlay for where their conservation trust funds go. Montrose, I wasn't able to talk to anybody exactly on that one either. Their budget kind of just shows that it goes into a fund for the Fairgrounds Event Center, but it doesn't show how it's allocated into those funds. And then Chaffee County over there, they don't use any conservation trust funds into their fairgrounds. I also talked to Mesa, or I mean, what is it, San Miguel County, to see kind of what they do. They also don't use any in theirs at the moment. And then I just wasn't really able to get any numbers from them because you have to kind of put in a request for it. So this hopefully gives you a little idea just how we are based off of other fairgrounds. And then with that information, if Travis, you want to go to the proposal, which is probably the other one. Yeah, that's the
Basically showed 5% increases
Yep.
on
that one right
on
there. That's it.
bits and pieces of it.
Okay, so yep, exactly. So this right here shows what we charge current down that middle column. And then I put together two proposals for you. I put together a proposal A and then a proposal B. Both proposals have, if you want to scroll down to, I think the third page, it will show, yeah, that restructure right there. So that, down just a little bit, yep. So right there in both proposals, A and B, what I'd like to do is at least do a restructure to our user cards out there at the fairgrounds. This would make it a little easier for us and for, I believe, users. So instead of doing this tier system where we got, like an adult, a family of 4, after hour, non-after hour, all this, I just want to do away with all that and just do one fixed amount for adults and then for youth. And the reason for that is because we do the key card stuff now. So I feel like we can make it a lot easier for us and for them with that. And it would also help us kind of police the people coming into the building, because if you don't got a card, you're not coming in kind of thing. It unlocks the door and opens it for them. So kind of keeps us from doing that or checking that. The other thing is if we were to restructure it a little bit and to restructure it to where we just charge like a flat fee of $125 for adults and $60 for kids, based off of our 2025 numbers, we would bring in an extra $3,000 from what we have so far. Right now we're sitting at about $7,000 for 2025, what we've brought in for those user cards. If we were to restructure it to my new proposal, then it would be about $10,000. So it would gain us a little bit there. And I think it would help us and the users, keeping it kind of simplified that way, if that kind of makes sense to you guys. The proposal B, I included that plus all these additionals on there that you see where I threw a 5% increase. So I kind of put that together. I mean, just like if we have to do any kind of increase, I mean, if you guys are just, this is what we have to do, no ands, ifs, or buts about it, I feel like this would be the way to go without hurting us too bad and or the events that rent the facility. And that's just kind of doing a 5% increases on each of those individual lines at the current moment, and then maybe changing more later if we had to. My recommendation at this point in time would be the proposal A, but I did throw that B if we need to move that way. My estimations are, if we were to go with the B proposal, we'd probably be looking at about, again, the $3,000 extra per year on the user cards, plus another maybe about $3,000 to $5,000 on everything else. So just kind of depending on how much the facility gets used. So there is a potential 6,000 to 8,000 increase per year with that 5%. But that's kind of what I came up with. So
What's the A again, Travis? Go back to the A. This shows B and A and B.
So yeah, race schedule A, this one here would just basically be everything the same as what we have right now, except for those user cards. That would be the only thing changing as far as cost, which I think is about the 3rd page.
So on your user card, how are you gonna keep track of who's using those cards?
So
Loaning your card out to somebody that didn't pay
So
us?
anybody that has a card is assigned to them. We actually do that for our after-hour writing right now. That's how they kind of get in the building when we're not there. And then practices and stuff kind of use them. So it's assigned to it. So when it's basically got a key card thing, just like this admin building on the door. You know, they put that key card, their name pops up, says they're the ones that checked into it. The other part of that, which I guess I didn't really explain, as well as doing the user cards, also the reserved writing or practice, which I got there for $20 an hour. Right now we do our practices that are evening onlys in the winter time. If we can use the card system, it would make it a little bit easier for us to rent the facility to people like a practice, or if they just want to reserve the writing for hour increments. But what they do have to have is they have to have a user card for each individual person that might be part of that practice and or wanting to do that reserved writing. And then that would just be $20 an hour plus their users.
So I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
what if you
I could
you
loan,
have
I
one
could loan
card
my card out to whoever wants to walk through
and
that.
Gerald and I
Well,
are
so
gonna,
I do got cameras. I got cameras pointed at the door. So if you come in, I guess, and if it's not, and I haven't had no issue with that with our after-hour writing, because we do that now.
Yeah.
And I haven't ran into that problem. Now, can that happen? Yes.
I'd put
Yes,
a penalty
it
on
can.
it.
But I
You
guess
get
it's the
caught
same.
with-
thing with
If you
mine.
get caught using somebody else's card or loaning your card out, you're done.
No, and that, I 100% agree. If that becomes a problem, I do have a
So,
form that people sign
I'm
before they.
gonna ask you a question. Does $20 an hour cover the use of that barn? An hour?
So at that point, I think it would, because they're having to purchase that card with that. So each participant has to have that card. So right now, we do our practices for $15 for youth and then $30 for adults. They have to have their cards as well, and it seems to, it's basically just the lights at that point. I mean, we rake the facility every morning as far as the footing in the arena, but we're doing that anyways, whether there's a practice or not. I don't specifically do it special for the practices. So the only thing that the practices would have specific to them that something else throughout the day wouldn't would be possibly the lights. And that $20 is going to cover that at this point in time.
So option B only increases about $3,000 to $6,000 a year?
On the user cards, yes. Yeah, you'd be about 3,000 on those. If we do the Schedule B, that's where the additional 3 to 5 would come from.
Right, but there's other things that are on that.
It's not going to change the reserve riding or practice too much from what I get right now. If we just go to a $20 flat rate on that, it's going to come out almost equal to what we're getting now. So it's not going to change that one too much. It will change the user cards unless, we don't sell as many. Now, to keep in mind, I have sold 100 of those this year so far. Before we did our price increases the last time in 2022, I was selling about 165 a year. So we did lose some of those by going to that new rate. I feel like if we do it this way though, where we include the after hours together and just do one flat rate and do the key card thing, maybe some of those will come back as well. Maybe it's a little extra thing for them to say, yeah, I'll go ahead and get another card because now I can utilize the facility a little bit more. So, I mean, it's just one of those things. I don't know which way it will go until we do it, I guess, but.
That's pretty inexpensive.
It is.
I mean, it's not.
There's a lot of the people don't use it except for just the winter time. And then if I go to a monthly rate, I have to have somebody there to kind of do this all the time.
Sure,
so
no,
this makes it easier for us.
It makes sense to have an annual card.
Yeah, it
Whether
does.
they use it or not use it, that's totally up to them. Go to B, Travis.
Yeah, and then just looking through B, it's going to kind of show you here each one of those line items that I did a 5% on. So like the indoor arena went up to $788 instead of $750 in the outdoor arena. So
Which is $30.
$38.
$38.
Yeah, correct.
Which is not.
It's not bad.
Insignificant. I would say.
That's why
option B is going to be my.
I feel like if we do absolutely have to, this would be the minimum impact at this time.
How come is on the outdoor arena the $58 an hour for the tractor rake, or I guess whatever you do out there, a 3-hour minimum? How come is it so much less than indoor?
On the outdoor?
Yeah, 58
So
outdoor and 70
with
indoor.
the outdoor, what we do is the ticketed events, then I also include the parking lot A. So they're not getting that parking lot A with an outdoor event. The only way that you get an outdoor event at that price is basically if you're a small, not doing much at all. Any of your ticketed events, like the rodeo, for instance, or or big stuff like that, you're gonna be paying the outdoor arena cost plus parking lot A, which is $750, and in the new rate schedule would be the $788. That's kind of why that cost shows a little lower than the indoor. The indoor comes with the parking at the indoor.
So if we raise these, which is fairly insignificant, it still doesn't get us close to a 50-50.
It's not going to get us close to a 50-50, no. It's
Even
going,
for your salary, it doesn't even get us close to 50-50.
so if we go off of what we should be getting for 2025, and my anticipation is to get about 120,000. If we can add an extra 30 to 40,000 from the general fund into, you know, maybe because right now I'm only getting 80,000 off the general fund for our budget. That would give us then another 40 or close to it, 30 to 40. If we can allocate and use the whole amount that we get off of fees going into the general fund, which we don't get right, or we don't have in our budget right now, if that makes sense.
Questions?
No, just thinking. Where, you know, given the history, what's gone on in the last year and a half with state legislature raiding all these funds, and I know they can't raid it, but what if that CTF funds goes away?
Well,
We're in a world of
It can go away.
It can go away.
I hear you. I do. I hear you. I just don't know, I guess, how we move forward at this moment, you know, by trying to do something if we're not using those. But I will say one thing. I talked to, and trying to find maybe other avenues of revenues, a way to go. And I did talk to San Miguel a little bit, and I don't know if you guys maybe want to kind of look into that a little bit, but they do have a mill levy that goes off of a special fund that goes straight to the fairgrounds. I don't know.
Yeah, but a mill levy, again, is got to go to the vote of the people. And if you can see, we have not been successful with anything.
I know, but
So
I just
our
wonder if
costs
maybe
continue to rise.
people want that fairgrounds, and maybe they will, you know, be apt to vote something in for it. I guess that's kind of where I'm going with that. But maybe it's just another possibility we look at. And I was just, you know, they're the only county, I think, as far as fairgrounds that I've talked to that actually do something like that. So maybe that's a thought we kind of look at later on.
Yeah, I'm not
You know,
willing to go down that road.
every one of these counties, I'm pretty sure,
All of them have a
except
sales tax.
Montezuma County, have a sales tax.
Correct, but they don't allocate really any of their sales tax to their fairgrounds either.
But it's still.
But it comes out of the general
comes
fund.
out of the general
Yep,
The
fund.
comes out
general
of the
fund
general
then
fund, yep.
services it.
Exactly. I know, and a lot of them have said the same thing. You know, they're looking at ways or trying to find ways to cover, and they just, you know, there's really no way that they look at doing that for their fairgrounds because they don't see their fairgrounds in that light, I guess you could say. I know a couple of them are trying to do their grounds a little bit different. I know Mesa County is trying to restructure their grounds a little bit different, you know, where they maybe do something different to
Didn't
help
they
try to
turn
cover.
it over now this year to a private?
No.
Didn't it go private?
501c3?
So
I thought Mesa County, didn't they turn that over to a private?
they're not yet. That's what they're looking at doing. So when I talked to their manager, he said they are actually looking at turning it in, and he's trying to get a board together for it. But when they do, the other part of that is now they're going to then run all events through them. So they're not going to rent the facility out to like the rodeo to come run the rodeo.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to run it all themselves. So then all that, you know, parking,
So it turns
sales.
into an enterprise,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Kinda,
pretty much.
in a way, yep.
So it's got to pay for itself.
It's got to pay for itself, but it's also going to be,
The more events you have, the cheaper it gets.
but it's also going to be them running it in-house.
Right.
They're not renting the facility out to somebody else to come run it. So their manpower too is a little bit more than ours. They have,
Sure.
they do have 5 employees fully staffed. And I don't know if they're planning on trying to increase that depending on, you know, what they do, but, They are. That's an avenue they're looking at.
Yeah, I heard on the radio today, McGee Park in Farmington down there is looking to do something. They
Yeah,
don't know
and-
what yet, but they're looking.
And I didn't really talk to them because they didn't do the CTF
Yeah.
fund, so I didn't really kind of talk to them a little bit about this in particular. But I mean, I know every county's got their own problems, I guess, and we got ours, and we have to try to figure out how to overcome those. But
It's really not a problem. I mean, if you don't have the resources, you don't have the resources. It's not a
Yeah.
problem. It's just what are you gonna cut? So I would say option B is extremely minimal. It's only raising it $3,000.
and if we do go to where it's like an absolute must-have raise, you know, where we maybe do a rate schedule B, then, you know, maybe we can kind of do that percentage over a few times, you know, rather than all at once. You know, maybe a year down the road, we do another 5% and then another 5% or something of that nature instead of us just kind of hitting it all at once.
I think that's the whole concept, is to do it incrementally small, 3%, 5% at a time, instead of 20% in 5 years, because then it's a huge,
No,
I
and
mean,
I understand that.
788 from 750. I don't, you know, when the Paso Mesa Verde came in here, we basically warned them at that point in time that there would probably be an increase. We didn't know what it would be, but it wouldn't be, I mean, $38 is not gonna break anybody.
Well, theirs is going to be a little bit more than 38. Cause
Well, I
they're-
understand that,
yeah,
but
they're
I'm
doing
just
a little bit
saying-
more than just that one thing. But
Right.
yes. No,
But
and-
still, incrementally, 5% is not going to, which is one of the largest, biggest things that we have out there,
and
as far
that's
as money.
that's why I feel like this would have the least impact, I guess, to us and all events if we kind of go that way. But that was kind of what I come up with after our last conversation.
So go back to B, Travis. Yeah, B is the one that has the increases on it.
Right there,
Oh, is that it?
yeah.
Keep going down, please. Okay. We'll make a decision tomorrow or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Okay.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you,
gentlemen.
Justin.
Thanks, Justin.
Yep. Well, it might be muddy if you decide to go out this weekend, so, to the mountain bike race.
Oh, it'll dry up. It's gonna stop raining by Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
Shoot, I raced out there, it was raining at 7 o'clock, postponed it till 8, and everybody took off.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
All right, okay. Hope to see you guys.
I'll be out there.
Thanks.
Thanks. Next up, a discussion around the iSolved software use. Mr. Bugg and Miss Warren.
All right. Good afternoon. So the background on this is, as we were working with both our broker for our insurance and with some companies to do some things with HR in general, HR and payroll, it came to our attention that this year our software would have to change from the Ease software for doing the insurance to another software no matter what, which started a discussion. There were two options for us to go. One was another software that's pretty much a generic software that only does the insurance onboarding. And then we looked at this iSolved, which is actually a complete HR and payroll module that would then put everything that we do into electronic format, including the onboarding for insurance, onboarding and offboarding of employees, Their payroll has the ability to take care of all futuristic stuff like trying to do all the trainings and push outs, all of our acknowledgments. And it puts a lot of it back on the employee, but it does it electronically so that there's less chance of there being any mishaps with data exchange, because everything right now is currently all done manually. So it's not only collected manually, it's all put in manually. It all has to be double and triple checked. So what we started looking at then was, at this point, how can we try and do something to start consolidating everything, go paperless, which we're spending a ton of money on paper. So this will put us as HR into a paperless format also, so that we can start doing that and start digitizing without having to pay an additional fee to do the digitizing. Obviously, we're not looking at this point of going backwards digitally. My only recommendation might be that over the time would just be get the current employees put in digitally maybe, but not past years. And so we've gone through and reconciled all of that also on how long we have to keep them, and are working on that. One of the biggest things is this all happens automatically. So currently when we onboard somebody, they fill out an I-9 for verification for employment for the feds. They have to fill out their W-4 for their taxes. They have to go in and do an onboarding in ease to figure out what insurance they're going to take. Then we collectively have to, myself and Miranda have to go in, put it all in and do the double check. Now it will automatically all drop in. So even during onboarding, every time somebody picks their insurance, we will no longer have to go and put their insurance in, double check to make sure we got the right insurances in. This software automatically uploads the codes to that person. They work with the broker, so the broker then puts all the information into the system. We don't have to do that for like all of our insurance changes, policy changes, all those things happen for us automatically. So what we're looking to try and do is, one, like I said, go paperless. Two is generate a much cleaner system that doesn't have as many errors in it, because we do make errors. And the other part of it is we have a way for the employee then to have access to more of their data than they do now. So if you want to make a W-4 change now, it's about a half a day process by the time we send it to you. You fill it out, you send it back, we put it in. Now all you'd have to do is log in, fill out a new W-4, automatically uploads the changes into your system, notifies us that it happened, and we're good to go. So that's really where this started from, was really trying to see how can we become, more compliant, especially because this will start getting us in line with a lot of our compliance issues. And the other part of it was to try and make us more efficient and more capable of doing things. So that's how the conversation started. So we then looked at a few different softwares. The biggest thing that we wanted to look at is something, even though our current broker does work with this software a lot, this software is standalone. So our data is our data. It's in a software that's not owned by our broker. Currently, the ease that we use is owned by our broker. And so we are relying on them, even though we technically own our data within that by law. We still have to deal with our broker to get it out if we were to move brokers. The iSolved just stays with us unless we were to move software platforms. We could go through 46 brokers and iSolved just stays there. So that's the other advantage, is we're not tied into a software that's tied in with our broker. So that's a little better option also. So any questions so far on that part before we talk about any?
I just always go to the money first.
Well,
Sure.
Because the cost is,
I have some
is
questions.
47,000. I mean, I know what you're trying to do.
Right.
You're trying to make it more effective and efficient to where you're not doing a lot of hand keying.
Yeah,
on
and we're
yourself
looing a lot of time that we could be doing other stuff
And-
that we're not getting done that really
Yeah.
needs to be done.
and
And that's where
letting
we're
the
trying
employee
to,
put it in themselves.
Yeah.
That way it's their data. I get that.
we do a lot of replication of work.
I'm a little fearful that you're still going to have to do some hand holding just because some
Sure.
people are not going to.
Well, we're going to have to
But
train
that's-
everybody.
But that's okay.
And there's going to have to be some changes in the way we do business, and we've allowed some things to not change, and people are just going to have to come up to some changes. I mean, that's just part
So
of
the
the world.
47,000, is that annually, the way I read that?
Correct.
It's
That
probably
also
at the
includes,
Bottom,
let me get
Travis.
to that back page for you. So part of it is, though, too, is it's It's $18 per person per month per employee, but that's the maximum we have if we're all staffed, and we never are. But there is the possibility of being at 265 total people between the two people that we have on insurance from the DA's office, everybody in social services, and if we're at full staffing. That's the maximum, at which we're nowhere close to that now.
And this is the one that the DA uses too, right?
And currently, ironically,
Correct.
unknown to us when we looked at this, they are using it, but not directly from iSolved. iSolved is like Microsoft product. They'll sell it to people back in the day to like platform off of. And so there's a lot of pay companies, like pay service companies, that have to have a base software to use. iSolved is one of those, and so they're paying that company to have that software service, but they're on a very basic mode of iSolved. And so even some of the things that we would be able to do currently the DA's office is not using. And so they're paying them like $7 or $8 a person per month, but they're just doing basically just payroll. And so, which we need to be able to onboard, outboard. And we're not looking at doing all modules right off the get-go. The ones you see in green are the only ones that we're looking at to start with. They do have the ability to do other items. So it's just like doing like I learn LMS Pro and some of the stuff for doing applicant tracking. They do have the ability, like this time especially like when we put out the application for the superintendent for Road and Bridge, we put it on Indeed, which we're getting ready to do some stuff for the assistant attorney. Everything's done through this. You just put your stuff in, it's coming out of the software. You pick the platforms of where you want it to go, and it's going to scorch the earth in those platforms, right? And you just pick how many platforms you want to put it in. Some of them come with that cost, and then there's additional ones that would be more money if you had specific ones. Like, say you needed a pipe fitter, for some reason, obviously we might be hitting that specific, genre, section somewhere, right? So we're not looking, it's too much work for us to just go out on full board on this to begin with. We're not doing it now. So we're really not trying to take on a whole lot of new services at this point, just trying to cover all our bases with the services we're providing now. So part of the cost, if you look at the last page, is they do charge more to do the W-2s and the I-9s and the 1099s, right? And all pay companies do. And so, but we're still spending the time and pushing out the paper. So this is that way for us. This is all electronic now. It's all generated electronic, sent to you electronically. You print it off. So
that was one of my questions. You're in compliance.
Correct. And this is going to get us way better on the year-end compliance and that we know we're there.
You don't even have to mail it.
There's a lot of
Yes.
compliance things that
Should
this will
everybody-
handle that we're
if-
behind on.
What if,
Yeah.
what if they don't have an email account?
You're still gonna have to mail something, right? They still have
Yeah.
to have something in hand.
Yeah, and
legally.
I don't know of anybody that doesn't have an email account. We still have a few employees that they still have flip phones, so they
Yeah.
don't have the ability to do anything off a phone, but they would have access to a computer.
Yeah, okay.
And there's some things we may have to deal with that still, but that's going to be a discussion with the new superintendent.
Is this gonna work with the sheriff's department's collective bargaining in the future? I mean, I
Well,
don't see a problem, but I
Like, what
have
do you
to
mean?
ask the question. I mean, payroll is gonna be the same, right?
Well, payroll is payroll. I mean, you're still fall under FLSA and everybody else. I mean, that part's irrelevant. It would just be whatever, this is easily manipulated to whatever standards you want. So whether they have, because they're part of the FLSA 7K, right? So fire and police are FLSA 7K employees. They have different overtime periods, overtime thresholds. Those are all programmable by employee, by code. So that's all the setup on the front side by them is part of the setup fee. So everything that needs to go in there on the front side, whether they're doing on-call pay, say for something, or maybe they have SWAT team pay, or they have, FTO pay, we have those in there now. I mean, it's anything that they want to dream up, pretty much you just have to put in the system.
Okay.
So it just depends on how they want to do it.
Is this gonna affect our audit? Is this gonna make it easier for our auditor to look at?
I don't know. This is really
I
gonna
don't-
have any effect on.
I mean,
Yeah, he doesn't usually look at much of the payroll side of
Okay.
things. Mm-mm. But if we needed something, it would make it, because they showed us a little bit of the reporting side, and we can basically go in there and tell it what we need, and then it would pull all the information. Unlike our current situation, we have to wait a day or 2 days to get help with a report if we're
Right.
needing information.
Okay.
So we can go in there, tell it what we need, and it can give it to us right away.
Which, I mean, IT is the way that we solve a lot of problems without personnel.
Right.
What, my question probably to you, Travis, is I know that McLean was looking at some more software that was redundant software to get rid of some of it because our software budget is so big. Has he identified anything that could go away and
This
this?
is still looking at some timesheet or time card / scheduling stuff that's
Okay.
been duplicated.
Because this is still an ad.
I get this.
Don't
yeah.
discount that we probably need it. to
Yeah,
be
and part of the other
compliant.
part of it
I'm
is,
just-
it's the amount of time it's gonna free us up. So, the total conversation flat out is this: if you wanna become 100% compliant, I need another full-time person. If you wanna get to full compliance, we're working towards
Why
getting.
don't we be like the state and be 10% compliant?
Well, we are 10% compliant. So.
Well, then we're good.
So the idea is to free up as much time as we can without adding a person and making everything cohesive and then all one-stop shop for the employee. And then free more time up for Miranda and myself to start taking on as much of this other stuff as we can to the point where we decide when and if would we go past that point. But to at least start making headway that way, we need to come up with hours somehow. And this is easier, and we can always scale it back if we had to.
Yeah, no, I don't.
So
I'm
that's
not-
that's really part of the threshold
I
too.
get
yeah.
that. I understand that. I'm just
Right.
saying, it's still an ad, and when we have an ad.
No, I get it.
And we get 10 more ads of
I understand.
47,000, pretty quick, that's
No,
470,000.
no, I get it. Yep.
And
So,
with this program, we can do our time sheets through here too. So that's one thing we wouldn't have to pay for anymore on the Cassell side of things. So
Right.
it would make Cassell
Down.
down.
And
I
this
guess
is-
that
we're
was what I was
absorbing it
asking,
with
because
this
we'd
program.
asked that question previously.
Yeah, and I don't know the
what do
cost of what
we-
we're paying, so
what-
that's one thing I
Yeah.
haven't had time to ask. So I don't know what that Cassell module portion is per year. I don't know.
And the one thing I know that employees will really like is they'll be able to go on and look at their pay stubs and everything on this program, which right now they can't. They have to come to me if they
Right.
lost their pay stub to get a new printout.
And that takes your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it is. I mean, everything, and the other part of it is it would consolidate. And there is the possibility, and I have sent this to social services. Obviously, I think they're waiting to see what the platform looks like because they're on Axiom. There is the possibility that they could jump on board too completely. I don't know. I can't speak for them, but I think they're honestly. I think Kelly's waiting to look at it and then see and make a decision, maybe. But then, if we were to do that, then we would be cohesively across on everything, and then but they're going to be, their employees are going to be forced to use it, because when they go to do their onboarding each year or their annual enrollment for health insurance, they'll be logging into it.
Yeah, you just answered one of my questions, just integrate across all of our departments.
It could. It will, everybody in general fund.
Yeah.
And then the same thing, the easy part for us now with the two in the DA's office that are on our insurance, it would just be a push out for those two because they're already in iSolved. And so they would just have that ability to then not only do payroll in there, but they would do their annual enrollment into for their insurance on there also.
So do we have to make a decision on this tomorrow? Or can we wait until McLean gives us a
No, I
little
think
better
what
idea?
we need is just a direction to move
Correct.
forward with this, because we don't even have the contract for Stephen to look
Okay.
at, but.
We've held off.
Yeah, we want
I
to make
think
sure
that,
that
I
we're
mean,
good to
from
go.
previous conversations that we've had, is that we're trying to make, what can we fix with information and technology first?
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking at here.
Well, I can tell you for everything that we're trying to, just for me to go in every time I get an audit, like whether it's from Pinnacle or whoever, I mean, it's days of work to try and dig the data out, figure out where it's at, what file is it in, where was it stored, because there is no cohesive spot, it's all paper. And so, and if they and one of the deals was they wanted to know who these outside contractors were. Well, they were people that we wrote checks to for refunds. So it took health department, a whole day to figure out who they're like, we don't even know who these people are. Right? They're not our contractor, but from Pinnacle, they look like a contractor because they get 1099, and they were just somebody that we made a refund to. So it's just the whole the way the system is now, it's just not as cohesive, and we just
Yeah.
lose a lot
And
of
I'm
time.
not, again, like I said,
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to this
No,
at
no,
all.
no, that's why we're looking at
I'm
it, is to
actually
try
on
and
board with it.
become
but
way
I'd
efficient.
really like to
Yeah.
see what else that we have that's redundant, because I know that he's found a lot of stuff that we were paying for that was absolutely out of the
Right.
world redundant, so,
And I can find out how much we would save on the Cassell portion.
Yeah.
yeah. I
And then
think
that would face
think
off some of the costs.
that would be the
Yep.
better
Sure.
information to bring back to us before we make a decision on this, because I know where you're going and I agree with it,
Mm-hmm.
but also too, I want to, how do I manage that $47,000 annually?
Sure. Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
Can they go in and look at their pension? What's going on with
It does have the ability to tie to the integration for that. Yeah, it does.
Well, but
So
you can already do that through CRA.
you can, but
You
it's
can,
still
but-
another location. And that's why,
True.
it's also the whole deal of they'll even manage cutting the checks for us to pay like all our insurance, which we manually do ourselves now. So there's all kinds of things that this just keeps integrating in and time that it keeps taking care of. And so, yes, if you look at the 401 integration, it's another $1 a month per person, but it does allow that to integrate in, and we can actually run CRA through this also. So it does, that's why, I mean, we're trying to, I didn't want to, I have put probably 7 softwares in place in my career. So from CAD software to whatever. And so it's really the deal of not wanting to jump full in because it's too much. So it's too much for the employee, it's too much for us on the on side. And for them to come back in and just put some modules in place is very simple. So, that's why I think we start off with this, but yeah, especially, that's the goal, because eventually, all the trainings that you do would be put in here, they can be pushed out through here. Anything that you push out as like your, your employee manual to any policy, you all electronically sign for them, and they're available to you through this now. No more paper, no more anything, and you have that digital signature. So now we have a much better tracking system. So, same thing with dealing with FMLA, same thing with dealing with work comp, it can all be dealt with through here.
Yeah.
So now I just spent a month organizing all that.
I know FMLA is a lot of work.
Yeah, and I mean, just keeping it organized and where it needs to be legally, and yeah. So,
Okay. Those are the only questions I have, is what can we do to offset the cost? And obviously, we've talked about it previously, is we don't want to keep adding FTEs.
Right.
We'd
Right.
rather have,
but and the other
Software
part you have to
too.
cost to this is just like when you were talking to Justin is, the part of it is too, is we're only able to get so much work done, and our time is money. And so that's the whole part of, how much money, I feel we can probably save 3 to 5 hours a piece per week, easy, with this software to go allocate towards other things. So when you take the 2 hourly rates and add it up, it does, accumulate a pretty decent fund of money
Right.
to offset the workload to finally get other things done that we're not getting
We're
done.
basically hiring another person that we don't have to.
Pay benefits.
At least about a
Yeah,
half-time
benefits
person,
too,
yeah.
yeah.
And you don't have to, you don't have the deal with it, so yeah.
cool.
Okay,
Anything else?
no,
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay,
all right.
very good.
And I'll
Thank you
get that
all.
price.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Appreciate the
All right.
information.
We are adjourned, gentlemen.
All right.